Sam, another bombshell here, this one coming from an audit.
That's right. We obtained an audit from BC's Gaming Enforcement Branch that alleged that in 2015, River Rock Casino staff knowingly accepted millions in cash from the alleged biggest loan shark in BC. That's Mr. Paul King Jin. Jin is the man that's at the center of these money laundering investigations in British Columbia. We learned that he was banned in 2012 as an extreme risk to the River Rock Casino and all casinos in BC. Canada's government knew about this in a FinTrack report. They knew that Jin was allegedly supplying a lot of cash to Chinese VIP gamblers. And yet, after this 5-year ban, his activity at River Rock allegedly continuing to flow millions, up to $8 million or more in cash to VIPs at the casino.
It's wild. Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned there, Paul King Jin, he was first flagged here in 2012. So how was he able to keep delivering that cash to the clients?
That's the question that we're trying to understand from BC's government, from the Lottery Corp of British Columbia. The Lottery Corp knew, there are all kinds of documents that show the Lottery Corp knew Mr. Jin was active, the biggest alleged loan shark in BC, at the center of this Vancouver model that we've been investigating. He was so bad, in fact, that the documents say Lottery Corp executives met River Rock's top managers in late 2014. They discussed that Mr. Jin had to be stopped. The chips he was bringing in, the cash he was bringing in, the Chinese VIPs had to be told. They couldn't accept it. And yet, up a year later, it was still occurring. We've asked Great Canadian Gaming, how did the managers let this occur? They claim that they were reporting and working with the police.
It's amazing, Sam, because it's not like these were just purely backroom deals. A lot of times this was caught right on surveillance camera as well.
According to the documents, yes, the transactions would have occurred in areas covered by surveillance. Sometimes, according to the documents, it would be outside the casino property. Sometimes it's believed that there were many, many employees working for Mr. Jin, but investigators say they connected these cash deliveries from Jin's alleged gang to the Chinese VIPs that he was doing business with back to 2012, according to documents. And yet it continued, and staff, the documents say that staff admitted they knew this money was coming from a wrong source.
Incredible stuff. Hope we can get some response from the government and the casino. Sam Cooper, thank you.
Senator Campbell, I'm sorry to bother you at the moment. We're with Global News. You're a director of compliance with Great Canadian Gaming. Can you tell us about any comments about the money laundering that's occurred at River Rock Casino?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you very much.
Senator, you serve the Canadian people, but as a director for Great Canadian Gaming, you serve shareholders. Is there a conflict of interest there?
That's it? It's just I chat this about the...
Senator, excuse me, is there a conflict of interest in you serving Great Canadian Gaming as a director? Senator, can you tell us how much you earn as a director for Great Canadian Gaming?
We have exclusive new and troubling information about the investigation into money laundering and organized crime at BC casinos. Documents obtained by Global News reveal senior police officers were concerned BC government officials might have leaked information that compromised RCMP raids targeting sophisticated alleged underground casinos in Richmond, BC. Our investigative reporter Sam Cooper joins me from Ottawa to explain what the documents that were obtained from a whistleblower reveal. Sam?
Yes, Donna, we learned that the RCMP raids on alleged underground casinos in Richmond failed, and these locations were found abandoned. The e-pirate raids targeted a man named Paul King Jin and Chinese VIP gamblers that police believed were active in legal and illegal casino money laundering. So they weren't just suspicious high rollers in BCL casinos, but police believed they were running sophisticated underground casinos too. The investigators successfully raided an underground bank in e-pirate, seizing about $6 million in suspected drug cash. But the casinos were found vacant, and the RCMP search warrant date on a calendar was circled. So there was serious concern that many people in BC's government and BCLC knew about these illegal casino locations, the suspects, and the raids, and maybe bad guys got tipped off.
Wow, and Sam, this raises all kinds of questions about the integrity of the investigation. Do we know if this was just loose lips or a sloppy investigation or something more nefarious?
The documents definitely highlight that many people in BC's government had inside information about these raids, and some senior police in BC knew less about the operations than people in government. So investigators were concerned about the integrity of information spreading wide in BC's government and to high levels. Also, before and after the raids, police leaders were starting to distance themselves from BCLC and telling their officers not to share information with BCLC. So all of this new information seems to raise demands for a public inquiry in BC because it adds to concerns that corruption inside BC's government could have occurred that may have gone even further than willful blindness to dirty cash.
All right, I know you'll keep following this story for us. Sam Cooper in Ottawa, thanks. It's alleged massive amounts of money was laundered in plain sight by organized crime. And we've spoken to whistleblowers who allege government officials either looked the other way or deliberately allowed it to happen. Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said he's looking into it.
We have tasked the Minister of Border Security and Crime Reduction, Bill Blair, to make sure that we are looking very carefully at the situation in BC with the casinos.
Reporter John Waugh has more on an exclusive investigation by Global News.
As a steady stream of dirty money flowed through BC casinos, loan sharks allegedly operated in plain sight.
Because one shark is sitting in the casino there, that's their office.
Proka Avramovich, who asked we hide his appearance and alter his voice, is a whistleblower who once worked as a security manager for Great Canadian Gaming in the early 2000s.
They're not at the table, there's a coffee shop, they're, moving around, so they're sitting there for 8-10 hours.
But Avramovich alleges security staff were told to only go after the small fish when it came to suspicious lenders.
We were reading out the small competition, and for some reason those bigger loan sharks were left alone.
Great Canadian writes it operates in strict compliance with all laws and regulations that apply to our industry and comprehensively follows all policies and procedures that are required of us by BCLC and our regulators. Adding the allegation by its former employee is not factual, but based on hearsay, conjecture, and hyperbole.
I got absolutely nothing to gain, except I wanted people to know what exactly happened.
Another whistleblower who used to work for the casino regulator, the Gaming Policy and Enforcement Branch, or GPEB, says there's only one way to get the truth.
I believe an inquiry would certainly pinpoint how this was allowed to happen and by who.
Schalk says he was dismissed for sounding the alarm about money laundering, and if he was subpoenaed, he'd happily offer more evidence.
The use of the word unwitting, in my opinion, was unfortunate and was incorrect.
Both whistleblowers say a public inquiry is the only way. Those responsible for the money laundering mess will actually be held accountable. John Waugh, Global News, Vancouver.
The Global News investigative reporter who broke this story and who continues to dig into it is Sam Cooper. And Sam joins me from Ottawa. Sam, you've talked to other whistleblowers about what went on in BC casinos. Do they tell you the same story?
Yes, Donna, they all believe that some officials in BC's government showed willful blindness to massive money laundering. One told us this was not unwitting, it was clearly deliberate. The Lottery Corp and the casinos were complicit in accepting this dirty cash. Also, a Lottery Corp whistleblower even filed a report that said senior police in BC had lost trust in the Lottery Corp. Another incredible allegation is that a Lottery Corp manager allegedly openly said that BC casinos should take in criminal money as government revenue and put it to a good use. So these sources say an inquiry is needed to investigate what they see as corruption.
So, yes, some are calling for a public inquiry, but money laundering is, of course, a criminal offense, so it would seem what's needed is a robust criminal investigation.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's what these sources are saying. Police should be probing whether corruption occurred in BC's government to deliberately allow money laundering. And also, if this was deliberate, what different groups could be involved? Was organized crime involved? Not just loan sharks and high rollers, but other ways? So we've asked the RCMP to respond to these questions, and we don't have an answer back yet.
15 people are in custody tonight after a massive police operation in Quebec and Ontario to round up suspects in a money laundering ring. The RCMP says it's dismantled an extensive international network with ties to organized crime. The swoop involved about 300 Mounties and local police in Montreal, Laval, and Toronto. Mike Armstrong has details on who they arrested and the extent of the operation. Mike?
Well, Donna, the RCMP here in Montreal is calling this Operation Collector, and that's kind of what they've been doing today, collecting suspects. These are two of the arrests made in Toronto this morning. They were flown to Montreal for questioning and will be formally charged here. All told so far, police have 15 suspects in custody, and they're looking for 4 more. Now, collector actually refers to what the money laundering ring was doing, allegedly collecting and cleaning the proceeds of crime. The Canada Revenue Agency is also involved. There have been 11 searches in Quebec and Ontario with a considerable amount of money seized, $1.7 million in Canadian and international currency. So far, the RCMP isn't giving much as far as details, but they are saying it's related to organized crime and drugs. On top of the cash, they've seized cocaine, hashish, and methamphetamines, and the charges the suspects are looking at include gangsterism and trafficking.